Okay. Holding on Daf Kuf Tes. Yeah, and at the top. The Mishnah.
The Mishnah, yeah.
109. 109a. Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And especially by learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash.
Amen.
Okay, so the Mishnah starts like this. Echad Kodshim Ksherim, Vechad Kodshim Psulim, Shei Psulim B'Kodesh. The Krivim B'Chutz is going to be Chayev. You're not allowed to offer a sacrifice outside the temple, right? So, if it's an eligible sacrifice, then that would be a violation. If it would be a sacrifice that's not eligible, however, it's eligible enough that if it would have been on the Mizbeach, the rule would be that you don't have to take it off the Mizbeach. So that would be Kodshim Psulim Shaya Psulim B'Kodesh. Invalid sacrifices, but that the invalidation happened in the temple, which the rule by those types of invalidations is that you don't need to remove it from the altar once it's put on, right? In helu la yerdu, that's the rule by those. And then such a sacrifice.
When you say psul, so what? The wrong animal? What makes it possible?
Puzzle could mean that either you took it outside the area where it was supposed to be. It's called yaitse. Or maybe you had kavanah shlei lishma, kavanah of pigel, all of those types of kavanas that was psulan b'kodesh. If it wasn't possible because it had a mum from before, right? It's possible because something in the temple, some activity in the temple made it possible. The rule by those is imhelu la yardu. So then be'krivim b'chutz, and then you take it outside the temple and you offer it there. It's chayiv because that's considered royal lifnim. It's considered eligible. Yeah. This is written interesting. If someone offers up a kazayas of the oila, which means the flesh of the oila, and included in that kazayas is also the limbs or the organs that are put by a regular sacrifice on the altar. Now the interesting thing here is that the entire oila goes on the altar. Right? An oila is entirely burnt. It's an elevation offering. It's entirely burnt. So what we're saying is that half of a zayas came from the flesh and half of the zayas came from the imurim, and then if that's the case, if someone takes it b'chutz, then it's going to be chayiv because both of those are eligible to go on the altar. When you put something that's eligible to go on the altar outside, it's going to be chayiv. Now, even though these are two parts to the same sacrifice, but these are two parts. One is half a zayas of basa, half an olive size of flesh, half an olive size of imurim. Those can combine since. And by an oila, they're both burnt, so that will combine even when it's outside the temple. Tanu Rabbanan was taught in a brayso talking about las chutz. Brayso starts off by quoting the pasuk. It's Perek Yud Zayin. Yeah. Pasuk. That's Perek Yud Zayin. It says the prohibition of offering sacrifice outside the temple. You should say to them, this is Va'aleim Taimar, any man from the house of Israel, from the converts who will live among them, who offers up a burnt offering or a peace offering, we're going to learn from that, and does not bring them to the entrance of the tent to meet, we're going to learn something from that, to be for God, that man will be cut off from his people. Okay. If any man from the house of Israel, the converts who live among them, eats any blood, I will devote my time with the soul who eats the blood, and I will cut him off from his people. Okay, that was the 8, 9, 10. So the pasuk, the brayso quotes the pasuk, Asher yala oila yizevach. Any man that offers up outside the temple an oila or a sacrifice, ainli yala oila. I would only know that someone offers up an oila, it's going to be chayiv. How do you know that we're also going to include in this imuri yasham, imuri chatas, imuri kachim, imuri kachim kalim, the organs that are usually put on the mizbeach. from an asham, from a chatas, from kachi kachim, from kachim kalim. Well, you see, the oila is the only one that's entirely burnt. The other sacrifices, just the imurim are burnt. So how do you know if someone takes the imurim from any of these things that you're supposed to go on the mizbeach, and he takes them outside the temple, he burns them outside, he's going to be chayiv, Talmud Laimar, says zevach, or oy zevach. Comes to teach me not only an oila, but other sacrifices as well. And which part of the sacrifice is only the part that would go on the mizbeach, which would be the imurim. Minayin l'rabbis, kaimetz, that's the scoopful of the mincha, balavina, and also the frankincense, talking about things that are supposed to go on the altar, but they end up going outside the mizbeach, outside the Beis Hamikdash, on an altar outside. V'aktaris, or maybe ktaris, minchas kainim, maybe a mincha of the kainim, which we know the halacha is that if a kain brings a covered mincha, it's entirely burnt. Minchas kain Mashiach, or maybe the mincha of the kain gadol, which is brought half in the morning, half in the afternoon, called chavite kain gadol. Let me just and let's say, besides for that, let's say menasich shleishes lug miyayin, someone that pours 3 lug of wine. Now that's the lowest amount of wine which is put on for a sacrifice. Could be 3 or 4, right? Shleishes shenim that's it. No, min chosim in eskeim. That's the flour. What do we say for the Reviya Sehin? That's it. Shlisha Sehin, Reviya Sehin, Shlisha Sehin, or Chatzi Ahin. Those are the 3 types. So here we're talking about Shlisha Slugim would be a Reviya Sehin. Shlisha Slugim Mayim, or if someone pours that amount of water on Sukkot, which is supposed to go on the Mizbeach, he pours it outside, pours water on an altar outside the temple. Talmud Laimar, for all of these things, it says, it says, and he did not bring them to the entrance of the tent of meeting. These are things that are supposed to go to the tent of meeting, and they didn't go, so he's going to be chayav. Then any of these things are going to be chayav outside. Just want to clarify because I got stuck on this morning. We learned before that kaimetz is not chayav b'chutz. We had the whole brisa that says only other things are chayav b'chutz, not a kaimetz. So realize that the pshat over here is that what we learned before, that a kaimetz is not chayav b'chutz. What we actually were learning was that if someone does the kamitza outside the temple, there's certain activities that would be chayav outside the temple. One of them is sheichet, the shecht. One of them is to put it on the altar. But if someone does the kamitza of a carbon mincha outside the temple, it's not chayav. Here we're not talking about doing the kamitza. Here we're talking about burning the kamitza. The kamitza was done, and now you're burning it outside the temple. So over there we say that you are chayav. It was doing the kamitza that we were not considering anything outside the temple. Or makabel asadam. Someone that receives the blood outside the temple also we said was not the prohibition. Okay. Ein li'ela kachim ksherim. I only know if the sacrifice was acceptable, that if you bring it outside the temple you'd be chayav. Minayin l'rabbis psulim. How do you know that if the sacrifice is invalid, that you'd still be chayav? Kigoyin, for example, halon. Let's say the animal stayed overnight, if that wasn't allowed. Vayoytzer, let's say it left the azara. Tame, let's say became tame. The wrong thoughts had the person that was shechting it. He had chutzlas manai. He's going to eat it out of its allotted time. He's going to eat it outside of its allotted place. Or let's say a Yisrael did the Kabbalah, and or apostle sprinkled the blood. It's not all of the viz over here. I mean or. Vanitanim lamata, or blood that was supposed to go below the red line on the mizbeach. Shenasan lamata was put above. What sacrifices go below? The oilas behema, the chatas ha'oif, and the other sacrifices, the asham and the shlamim. All those go below. That if the blood was put above, which that invalidates it. Vanitanim lamaila, shenasan lamata, or for example, the oilas ha'oif, or the chatas behema, that's supposed to go above the line. So that was put below. Let's say things that were supposed to go on the outer altar, but they were put on the inner altar. Or the opposite. All of these are real invalidations of the sacrifice. Or Pesach and Achatas that were slaughtered. I think it's supposed to be Shechtan. Shlei Lishman, yeah, it gets corrected in the Maseches Zavachim that it was slaughtered with the wrong intention. So minayin, how do we know that you're going to be chayev if any of these things are offered outside the temple? We say Talmud Laimar. The pasuk tells me lo yevienu lases, wasn't brought to the tent meeting to perform. Anything that would have been acceptable at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Now, when we say acceptable, what we mean is anything that if it would have been brought up on the altar would not have to be removed. Then if you take it outside, the person will be chayev. He offers this outside the temple. Yeah, that's a nice long brisa. The line, Chut HaSikra, the red line. Oh, the Zrika. Yeah. Right. Here we're saying that even if another Kohen did not do it, and it became invalid, nevertheless someone takes it outside the temple and offers it up. The person that offers up is still going to be chayav, because that type of invalidation would not, if it would be put on the altar, you wouldn't be removed. Yeah. Funny. Non-Jew is allowed to bring a sacrifice on a bama, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess the point of this Mishnah and this brisa is that what you're supposed to bring on the what would be a real violation outside the temple would be a kosher sacrifice. We're saying that sometimes even a non-kosher sacrifice is also considered the same violation. Okay, Amala Kazayas Menoila. We said that if someone has a combination of the flesh of the oila together with the emurim of the oila, and he offers it up outside the temple, and it's kazayas all together, we say that he's going to be chayev. Oila of emura in is actually a little bit of a difficult gemara here. The oila and its limbs are yes going to combine, and he's going to be chayev because he created a kazayas between the combination of the flesh and the organ. Shlamim v'emerayim loy. But if it's going to be a combination of the shlamim, the flesh of a shlamim, together with its organs, then that's not going to combine. Now you have to realize that the flesh of the shlamim is not supposed to go on the altar. He's putting it on the altar to combine with something that is supposed to go on the altar, which is the emurim. Now it's not even going on the altar; it's going outside the temple, right? So he has two problems here. It's right.
It's the wrong mix.
It's like the food tastes like poison, and the portions are so small, right? So here, it's not supposed to go on the altar anyway, and he's putting it on not on the altar, he's putting it outside the temple. Okay, so we say that it doesn't combine to the shear, to the size that would be required to be liable for offering a sacrifice outside. Tanina la de Tanarabanan, but we were just medayek. From our Mishnah, we can really find in a brisa. Sometimes when it does this, it says, we already learned this before. Why do you have to tell this to me? It says, what's the expression? An expression that's like, we know this already. Now here, sometimes it says, Tanina lahad Tanarabanan. Exactly what you're teaching me, we learned somewhere else, as if this is like a positive thing. The reason for that distinction is that this is it's derived. It didn't say it clearly that by a shlamim this won't apply. So it's a diak. It's a diak. So the diak I see somewhere else. Okay. It says Oila ve'Maram. It starts from the Kazayas la'leisim b'chutz. The Oila and the limbs of the Oila, which are supposed to go on the altar, which everything of the Oila goes on the altar. If you have a Kazayas combined from both the flesh and the limbs, so then you offers them outside la'leisim b'chutz. It's going to combine l'chayev aleim mishum pigel. That if he's going to eat that combination, a half a zayas of flesh and a half a zayas of the imurim that became pasul, it's going to be chayv kares because it's pigel and nicer v'tamei, and the same thing will apply if that was left over or tamei. As we see that you can combine the two parts of the animal to create a kazayas. Gemara says bishlei mahalos oila the kalol in. When we spoke about the combining the two parts of the oila, we said that if you offer it outside the temple, so it's going to be a prohibition since both parts of this are usually put on the altar. So in shlamim, loy, this is only going to be by an oila because it's entirely burnt. But by a shlamim, we're not going to say this because by a shlamim, the flesh of the shlamim is eaten, and the imurim of the shlamim is burnt. So we're not going to say that half an olive size of the flesh and half an olive size of the limbs are going to combine together to create the prohibition, because the part that's eaten is not supposed to go on the altar, so that's not going to be part of the prohibition. Ella pigol v'nais v'tamim my time, but what's the reason that pigol should not combine the two parts of the shlamim? Both of those, Vatanan, we have a Mishnah that says, Kol pigulin mitzdarfin. Anything that becomes possible because of pigul, the thoughts of that it was going to be eaten or burnt outside the allotted time. That invalidates the entire sacrifice. It doesn't matter if you're going to be eating half and or supposed to be part of it's supposed to be burnt, but you eat even the part that's supposed to be burnt. The same thing will apply. But Kol hanisar mitzdarfin, and anything that's left over from a sacrifice, whether it's the flesh or whether it's the organs, will combine to the kazayas. So kasha pigel pigel. The kasha, why we're saying that by a shlamim, the pigel doesn't combine. And over there we have a Mishnah in Mi'ila that says the pigel does combine. And kasha nicer, it's a kasha nicer as well. What's left over, right? The iber geblibena. What's left over from the sacrifice over the allotted time, we said that it doesn't combine. In the Mishnah in Mi'ila, it says that it does combine. Where it says pigel like kasha. We can resolve this with the following way. We can say that when we spoke about pigel in Me'ila, that it combines, that's talking about kan bepigel. Here we're talking about pigel. That means that it already became pigel, and now you're joining it together and you're eating a kazayas from both parts. Kan b'machsheves pigel. Here we're talking about where you're creating the pigel, not that it was pigel already. You're saying that I'm going to eat a half a zayas of this out of the allotted time, and I'm going to burn a half a zayas of the limbs out of the allotted time. You're trying to create the pigel initially, to create the pigel, right? With the thoughts of out of the allotted time. So we say that a half a zayas of eating and a half a zayas of mizbeach consuming doesn't combine. But yes, so once it's pigel,
so he was having the pigel thoughts while he was doing the
shlita or whatever.
Yeah, the connection.
So and then he's trying to combine them to create the animal should become pigel. That we don't say happens when it's. However, by an oila, if he has thoughts of what he's going to do with the flesh of the oila, and he has thoughts what he's going to do with the limbs of the oila, that does combine because both of them go on the mizbeach, right? Okay. By the bones, pickled by the bones. Said they weren't eligible. I'm sorry. No, we're not talking about. Oh yeah, we had a similar discussion about if the hide combines with the flesh. Not about eating. I think there was a discussion about the hide. If it becomes puzzle, where it goes, right? If the kohanim get it when it's puzzle. That was a discussion we had a few days ago. You're asking if the hide hide is, if there's piggle by the hide. I don't think there's piggle by the hide. But what the Gemara is doing here, saying that there's a difference between if the animal became piggle and the person's eating different parts of the animal, or if you're creating the piggle right now, will it become piggle if he has thoughts of a half a zayas of this part of the animal and half a zayas of that part of the animal, when the two parts of the animal don't have the same halachas? One of them is supposed to be eaten and one of them is supposed to be burnt on the mizbeach. What we're saying is that doesn't combine. Right? However, once it became actual piggle, then it doesn't matter even if it's burnt on the mizbeach. If someone eats it, then he'd violate the rules of piggle, which is kares. Right? Nice like kasha, and there's no question by the what's left over. One said that it does combine, the other one said it doesn't combine. Because Khan, the Mishnah in Meila that says that everything combines is benaiser. It's talking about that the shlamim was left over too long, and so half a zayas of the flesh, half a zayas of the limbs is a problem because it's already nicer. Khan, we're talking about where the blood was not sprinkled. And question is, do you now sprinkle the blood when you only have a kazayas combined of flesh and limbs? Is that enough to sprinkle the blood? We say Umani Rabbi Yeshua. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. If you remember, there was a machlekes if you can still sprinkle the blood when you don't have any flesh left over. Is dam afal pishein basar? Remember a discussion like that? Rabbi Yeshua holds that you need to have basar in order to sprinkle the blood. It was Rabbi Elazar says dam. Right? Rabbi Yeshua, the Tanya, Rabbi Yeshua, calls v'achim shebeterish and eshtayabem kazayis basar. If you have a kazayis basar left over, that would be eligible to be eaten, then you can sprinkle the blood. Kazayis chelav zayrik asadam. Chat kazayis basar v'chat kazayis chelav ain't zayrik asadam. Uba when it comes to the oila, then even if you have a half a zayis of chelav and half a zayis of basar, chat kazayis basar v'chat kazayis chelav zayrik asadam they should kula. Because over there we have the correct combination where both of those, half zaysim combine together to go on the altar. Other sacrifices, we say you don't have enough that the blood should be sprinkled. What the blood is the mater. It's allowing for the animal to be, for the service to be completed. But there's no flesh left. And if you only have a half a zayas of this and half a zayas of that, it's not going to combine together when half the zayas is eaten, the other half of the zayas is burnt on the altar. But if by an oila where half a zayas of this and a half a zayas of that is all burnt on the altars, then it combines to one kazayas. Then it says that by a carbon mincha, which is a flour offering, even if the entire offering is still there, you don't sprinkle the blood. The Gemara says, mincha mayavidite. What are you talking about? Sprinkle the blood. This is like if there's a rooster and lays an egg on the roof, which side does the egg fall? When it's a mincha, there's no blood by a mincha, right? It's okay, right? Roosters don't lay eggs and minchas don't have blood. Amar of Papa, minchas nesachim abayim azevach. We're talking about the type of mincha, the flour offering that comes along with a sacrifice. That we're saying that if the sacrifice is lost, but the flour is still there, can you sprinkle the blood for the sacrifice because you still have part of the what do you call the things that come along with the meal, like not the garnish, but the secondary things that come along. That's not enough to sprinkle the blood for just because the mincha is there. Okay, we're holding at a new Mishnah in Kuftes Amud Beis. It says kaimetz v'alavayna v'akteires minchas kainim Mashiach. Minchas nesachim, sheikar v'achas me'am kazayis b'chutz chayev. Rabbi Elazar Peter sheikar v'skulan. Well, talking about parts of sacrifice, you're not offering the entire everything that you're supposed to offer. You're only offering a part of it. It comes a machlekes between the Tanakam and Rabbi Eliezer. So we talk about the kaimetz, the scoop of a mincha, or the levina, which is the frankincense, which is brought together with the mincha. minchas nedava, the donation mincha, you would bring also frankincense along with it. Or the ketairos that's brought in the morning or in the afternoon, or the minchas kayanim, which is entirely burnt, or the minchas of the kain Mashiach, which is the kain gadol would bring in. Or the carbon mincha that's brought together with the carbon, it's called minchas nesachim, that a kazayas of one of these minchas, or one of these kaimets, or one of these ketairos, was brought outside the temple. Just one kazayas of the whole thing was brought outside. So the Tanakama holds that Yechayev. Rabbi Lezer says you're pater. You're only going to be chayev if you offer everything of this sacrifice outside the temple. Everything that, it's just a little part of it outside doesn't do it for Rabbi Eliezer. I have Rabbi Lezer over here in this commentary, but I think it's Rabbi Eliezer because the whole time it was always Rabbi Lezer. Okay.
Eliezer.
Yeah, Eliezer. Good. With Kulan, everything that we mentioned before, Shikr Bifnim, let's say you were doing it properly. You were offering the whole mincha inside, and the ketairos was done inside, and the chaviti kain gadol, everything was being done properly. B'shir mem kazayas, but you left out one kazayas in the batter, in the thing. V'ekrive b'chutz, and you offer it outside. It ends up you didn't finish offering this what we're supposed to offer up. And it's outside the temple already. So he says, okay, we'll just burn it here. Don't worry, it's not a problem. So you burn it outside the temple. And it's a kazayas. Everyone's going to agree that yechayev, even according to Rabbi Eliezer. The explanation for this is that Rabbi Eliezer says that you need the entire thing outside. He means that the part that finishes off the whole thing. So since everything else was offered already inside, this one kazayas that's outside, that's going to that's the last bit. Rabbi Lezer would agree that Yechayev for being Mala B'chutz. It was only when half of it wasn't being offered anywhere, and you're only doing a piece of it outside that didn't cut it for Rabbi Lezer. Anything that's missing a little bit, the kriva b'chutz, you're going to be pater. You're going to be exempt because you won't be able to offer it inside. Now, is this pater according to everyone? Oh yeah, like an email address. Very good. Okay.
Yeah, it says here pater
l'choladeis. Wow. So what's the pshat? Before the Chum said I guess the pshat is like this. Before we were talking about, I have the whole mincha here. And I only took a kazayas and offered it, I have the whole kaimetz here. But I didn't invalidate the sacrifice. I have everything here. The only thing I did wrong was I offered part of it outside the temple. How much did you offer? Not enough to be liable. But now what the Mishnah is saying is that part of the sacrifice is missing. That part would invalidate the sacrifice. And now you're offering outside. So that's already your pater. But I think if you would have offered it up, I think it's interesting because I thought we said before that anything that would im alala yered, if you put it on, so why over here you're going to be pater? I'm not sure. Let's see what the Gemara is going to say. Because of the shalom, it's a special pasuk. Okay, special pasuk. The Gemara is going to say, Hamakriv kachim ve'imurim b'chutz chayiv. Someone offers the flesh, and together with the flesh are also the limbs. Now, which part of the sacrifice is supposed to go on the altar? Not the flesh, the limbs, the emurim, those organs that go. So, but you offered the flesh and the limbs together. Part of it wasn't supposed to go on the altar. Part of it was. It says you're going to be chayiv for the part that was supposed to go on the altar, and you put it outside the temple. The person is going to be chayiv. Tana Rabbana. Put on the brayso. Makter kazayas b'chutz is chayiv. If someone takes makter is talking about ketairos. If someone offers a kazayas of the incense outside the temple, he's going to be chayiv. Chatzi pras. If he does the full amount, pras b'shachris pras ben arbayim. Oh, he does half of the full amount. He's supposed to bring in the morning a pras, which is I don't know how much, but he does half of that amount. Does it say over here how much a pras is?
Bigger than
Yeah. How much is the price? It says pras
Mishkal
b'shach.
50 dinarim.
It says pras b'shachris pras bein arbaim. Supposed to bring a pras
So
in the morning.
pras is 50, so half is 25.
Yeah. So he brings half of it outside. It's going to be pater. Kasal Kadaitach, the Gemara says that the students understood, they thought, my pater, what does it mean that he's pater if he brings half of it? He's pater zar. Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You have to bring a
Double or triple?
Siddur. Bring a siddur. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a half a mana, right? Mana l'chol yain. It's a mana. So a mana is the size of 100 coins. So a pras b'shachs would be 50 coins. 50
Right,
coins.
that's
It's
what
a
it's
lot
saying.
of. It's a weight. This is a weight measurement.
Right.
Yeah. This is a large amount. Right. They arranged to have 368 mana for the year, and they used 3 of them on Yom Kippur, right? And so every day they had 1 mana. So half a mana was done in the morning, half a mana was done in the afternoon. It's a huge amount. And what we're talking about now, this is interesting because if you read this carefully, it says Hamakter Kazayas Bachutz is Chayev. The Kazayas of the Ketairis outside is Chayev. Chatzi Pras Bifnim is Pater. If you offer half a pras Bifnim, not outside, it's a half a pras, half of what you're supposed to do inside your Pater. Why? What do you mean Pater? My Pater Zar. We're talking about if it was a Zar that offered half a Zar, means someone that's not a Kayan, did this service, which he's not allowed to do, we would say that he's Pater. Says Amai, Aktari, why should he be Pater? He's not allowed to do the service. You need a Kayan to do the service. And he's doing a service. I know he didn't do the full amount, but he should still be Chayiv. Should be Chayiv Karis. The Zar that does the Avodah is Chayiv Karis. Amar Rab Zeir, Amar Rab Chisda, Amar Rab Yirmiyah Barab, Amar Rav. Oh, that's a lot of people. Rab Zeir, name Rab Chisda, name Rab Yirmiyah Barab, name of Rav. He says, my Pater, Pater Tzibur. Pater Tzibur. Exactly the opposite of what we were thinking. We thought that he was going to be exempt from a punishment. No. Talking about that the congregation is exempt from bringing it again. Not that. We're talking about a regular Kayan brought it. We said that you were Yaitza. Pater Tzibur means you're Yaitza. You didn't bring the full amount, but that was enough. Satisfactory. Yeah, sometimes that happens. This used to say in Yiddish, "Makom sheinish is herring eicha fish." I used to say that. Like when makom sheinish, when there's no one else, so you should step up to the plate. So they would joke if makom sheinish, where there's no other man, herring is also considered a fish. That was like a weak type of food. Anyway, so okay, if you have you only did half, that also works. Okay. Amar Rab Zera says, "Ikashali, hakashali." We're going to ask a question on this. The following would be the question that I would ask. Hadam Ravala, Rav said about this brisa. We said that half a pras is going to be satisfactory. Baha afilu. I don't know if it's baha. I think it's baha or daha. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's baha. Baha afilu Rabbi Eliezer Maida. Even Rabbi Eliezer would agree that they're yaitza. The Rabbi Eliezer. Oh no, this is Daha. It's supposed to be Viha. Viha Rabbi Lezer Labaktari Kamar. Rabbi Eliezer holds that if you're missing a little bit of a sacrifice and you offer it outside, it doesn't count. So why does Rav say that when you offer half the Ketores, that's going to be satisfactory? And Rav says that it's even going to be according to Rabbi Lezer, but Rabbi Lezer holds that when you're missing a little part of a sacrifice, it's not satisfactory. So why by the Ketores is it going to work? Okay. Amar Rabba says, to answer this up, why it should be acceptable to have half the amount, it says, Ba'aktara dehechal kuli amalei pligi. Everyone agrees that with just the kazayas, yaitza, by the ketores in the hechal. And the explanation for this is because in the Torah it doesn't say how much of the ketores you have to offer every day. That the sages told us. That's all rabbinic. But biblically, there just has to be ketores. It doesn't say exactly. So therefore, everyone would agree that you're yaitza with just the kazayas. Kipligi, when is the machlekes between the Chacham and Rabbi Lezer? Ba'aktara de pnim. Talking about the ketores of Yom Kippur, of the Kohen Gadol, when he goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Over there it says that you have to bring malay chafnav, a handful, a double handful, right? Chafnav is the handful. So Mar Savar malay chafnav dafka. Rabbi Eliezer holds that when it says a handful, it means literally a handful. So therefore, anything less than that, you're going to be exempt. Mar Savar malay chafnav lav dafka. And the Chachamim would hold that malay chafnav is not specific. That's what it says.
It's a concept.
Right. It's more like it's that's what you bring in, but that doesn't mean that's the amount that you're supposed to burn. If you burn less than that, it's also satisfactory. So we're talking about the ketores in the heichal. So therefore, Rabbi Lezer would agree that even a kazayas is going to be satisfactory. And where do we have a machlekes in the Mishnah about where Rabbi Lezer says that it's not considered a haktara if it's less than the right amount? That's talking about in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Amalei Abaya, this comment here, this teretz that was given for Reb Zera's question, that how could Rav say that Rabbi Lezer would agree that it's going to be acceptable, and Rabbi Lezer holds it's not acceptable? Then Rabbi answered that it depends where, depends on the location, right? If it's in the Kodesh HaKadoshim or if it's in the Heichal. So that teretz was said by Rabbah. Amalei Abaya says to his teacher, which is Rabbah, V'ki ksiva chuka b'aktar b'fnim u'diksiv. How could you ever tell me that you don't have to have that amount of the malay chafnav according to the Rabbanon? It says the word chuka, and we know that whenever it says the word chuka, it means that if you change even a little bit, it's invalid. Elam Rabaya, rather Rabaya says, b'aktara b'fnim kol malay pligi. Everyone holds that it needs to be a malay chafnav, to be the handful, and if it's not the handful, handsful, then you're not yaitzik. Ki pligi b'aktara d'chutz. The machlekes is in the heichal. In Mar Savar, the Chacham hold yalfinam pnim michutz. Probably supposed to be yalfinan chutz mipnim. Oh no, I'm reading it wrong. It works like this. We're switching the terms over here, which is not fair. We're switching what pnim means. We're switching what chutz means. In the last Gemara, pnim meant the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and chutz meant the heichal. Right? Now we're going backwards. Now we're saying that what happens outside the temple when you offer it outside the temple. Rabbi Lezer says that a kazayas is going to be a problem, right? Outside the temple, even a kazayas is going to. And now we're learning that if outside it's a problem when you offer a kazayas of ketores, then inside the heichal a ketores is going to be a kazayas is going to be satisfactory. So that's right. So we're learning the yeah. So the Chacham Marsav Yalfinim Pnim Michutz, that just like if someone offers the ketores outside, he's going to be chayev if he offers even a kazayas. So also, if someone offers inside the kazayas, even less than malei chafnav, you're going to be yaitza. Over there, if it's liable, over here means that you're going to be Yitzah. Mar Sarvali Alfinan. Rabbi Lezer says that we don't learn. Outside, you're going to be Chayiv, but inside the Heichal, you're not going to be Yitzah. You have to do. How much do you have to do? I guess the full amount. So why does it say a Malay Chafna? Rashi's learning is so interesting. This is much more complex than the way I explained it. Way more complex. I'll explain it to you. Sorry?
We're dealing with two
measures. Right. So Rashi's learning it that we're still dealing with the two issues, with the Keteres of a regular day and the Keteres of Yom Kippur. We're still dealing with that. And the Belezer agrees that the Keteres of the Heichal does not need to be the full amount. And the Keteres of the
Kazais.
Yeah, and the Keteres of the Kodesh HaKadoshim does need to be the full amount. So now we're discussing like this: if someone takes the Kazayas of a regular day, the Keteres of a regular day outside, so then everyone's going to agree that Yechayev. Question is, if you take the Keteres of Yom Kippur outside, which over there we do have a specific measurement, will you be chayiv for that Keteres? With the Kohen Gadol's Keteres, so that he does on Yom Kippur. But over there it says clearly it needs to be Malay Chafna. Will you be chayiv over there? So Rabbi Lezer says that lo yalfinam pnim michutz. The Keteres of the Heichal that you chayiv outside with the Kazayas, that's only one type of Keteres. But the Keteres of Pnim, you're not going to be chayiv outside with the Kazayas. Since inside, Kazayas wouldn't have cut it, so therefore outside you need to have that same amount.
Actually working.
Yeah, it's more complex. And Amar Rava, this was Abaya that was explaining the teretz on Reb Zera's question, a little differently than Rabbah. Rabbah just said that there's a machlekes if Malay Chafnav is dafka. Does it need to really be two handfuls? Comes along Abaya and says, no, everyone holds that it needs to be two handfuls. Question is, if you don't do it in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, does it still need to be two handfuls? Rabbi Lezer says it does. Amar Rava, hashta chutz michutz leyalfi rabbanon. We say, what's happening now? It says we have cases where if you don't do the full amount, you're not liable. For example, the Nisach Hayayin and Nisach Hamayim, if you don't do the full amount, we said that you're not liable. It has to be Shleish Lugin, right? It has to be the at least the smallest amount of what would be offered. If you do any less than that, then then a person isn't liable outside the temple. However, there are other things where the Chacham said that if you do smaller than the smallest amount, you are liable. You are liable. For example, the Kazayas of the Basar, even though it's not the whole thing, but that's already liable. So the Gemara Rava says, "Chutz michutz leyalfi rabbanan." There are certain cases where we don't learn something outside from another thing that's outside. So pnim michutz mibai. You want to say that we're going to learn something that's inside from outside, that you're going to be chayiv on the Keteres of the Kodesh HaKadoshim because you're chayiv on the Keteres of the Heichal when it's not the full amount? Says Maihi. What are we talking about? It says like this: the Tanya. Starting in a brayse, Yachal Amayla Pachas Mikazayis Kaimetz Pachas Mikazayis Imur Amanas Pachas Mishleish Lugin La Yayin or Pachas Mishleish Lugin Mayim Yechayev. Could have thought that if someone offers outside the temple less than a kazayas of the kaimetz, less than a kazayas of the limbs that are supposed to go on the altar, or less than 3 lugim of the wine that's supposed to be poured on the altar, that's the smallest amount, or less than 3 lugim of the water that's poured on sukkahs, he pours less than that. I could have thought maybe it should be chayiv. Talmud Leimer, the pasuk teaches me lasos. It says lasos isai. It says perform it. Ala shalom chayiv, ain't a chayiv ala chaser. The only chayiv if it's whole, but not then it's less. The Gemara says hapachas mishlei shalugin. This becomes asim v'lei alfer rabban chutz michutz. But nevertheless, they don't learn one from another. They say even though it's less than shlei shalugim, even though in less than shlei shalugim you have many kazesim. And I don't say that once it's a gazayas that should be satisfactory. We should say that just like by the meat, half a zayas would be chayiv. I'm sorry, a zayas would be chayiv. So too a zayas of the wine should be chayiv. I don't learn one from the other. Now you want to learn to the ketores of the kodesh hakadashim, where it's malei chafna ve'elam Rava. Now the Rava says that kigoyin de kavinu shnei chatzoi pras. Really, we're talking about not the ketores of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. We're talking about the regular ketores of the Heichal. And Reb Lezer would agree that a kazayas outside, or a kazayas you'd be yoitzer. And if a kazayas outside would be chayev. What's the machlekes? In Kavinu Shnei Chatzoi Pras, he designated 2 halves of b'mana. He designated 2 halves in a keli.
So you can't be shot.
So the thing is like this: Mar Savar Kviyas Manamilsi. Rabbi Lezer holds that once it's put into a keli, then you've just established the shear, and that's the amount that needs to be offered. If you offer any less than that, you're not going to be chayiv. Mar Savar Lav Milsi. Just the fact that you put it in a keli doesn't mean that now this becomes a designated shear. We said before that even a kazayas would satisfy the obligation. So even though it was in a keli, it would still. So that's where we had a contradiction. One says that it needs to be the full amount. One says that it doesn't need to. Depend if it was put into a keli. If the full amount was put into the keli, what would Rabbi Lezer say? Rabbi Lezer would say that now we have a designated amount that needs to be offered in order to be yoitzer or in order to be chayiv. Amar Rava, Pashta. According to this, if the keli is kaiveya, is establishing the shear, the measurement, according to the opinion that holds, which is the Chachamim, that says that putting it into the vessel is nothing. Kava shisha lapar. Let's say you're supposed to put 6 lug for the libations of a bull. It's supposed to be 6 lug. That was a chatzi ahin, half a hin. A lug was 12. A hin was 12 lug. This he used. Yeah, here we're not talking about the catching the blood. Here we're talking about the libation, the wine that's poured together with the animal. Yeah, so if he has, he put 6 lug in. However, umashach mehen arba dekprivim bachutz, and from those 6, he takes 4 of them, and he brings it outside, and he offers it outside. He's going to be chayiv. Why? Sherui and la'ayel. Because 4 lug is the amount that is enough for a different sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say kava arba la'ayel.
We don't say that the keli was.
We don't say the keli is made at the measurement. Kava, according to the Rabbanan, according to the Chacham. Kava arba la'ayel mashmem shleisha v'kivim bachutz. Let's say he established 4 for the ayel, and he which is the amount that you're supposed to bring for a ram, and he takes from it 3 and he offers them outside. He's going to be chayiv because ruyim lekevish, because that's the correct amount for a sheep. Aliyam, you're supposed to bring 3 lug. Kalshu, but if from those 3 lug you lose a drop, then you're going to be pater, because that is totally not eligible. Ravashi says. That's Rava's question about can you learn if you don't learn outside to outside, you're going to learn inside from outside. So Ravashi says regarding that question, Nisuch me'aktara layalfi rabbanan. That's a different story, because when it talks about the pouring of the wine, in comparison to the offering of a kazayas of the emurim or of the ketayres, the rabbanan don't do the comparison. Even though chutz mechutz we don't learn one from the other, we see that they don't learn. But haktara me'aktara yalfi, but they will learn one type of offering from another type of offering, which would mean that it is possible that the ketayres of the Kodesh HaKadoshim of Yom Kippur will learn from the ketayres of the Heichal. That just like in the Heichal, if it was a kazayas outside, you'll be chayiv. So too the ketayres of Yom Kippur, if you take a kazayas outside, you'll be chayiv. Afagav the chutz mipnim, even though you're learning the outside from the inside. Afagav the pnim mechutz, it's supposed to be. Yeah, they correct this for us. Afagav, what's the hey? The pnim mechutz. Yeah, okay, it's corrected. So it's good when you catch it. It feels like you understood the pshat in the Gemara. Even though you're learning the ketayres of the inside from the ketayres of the outside of the heichal, you're learning the ketayres from the Kodesh HaKadoshim from the ketayres of the heichal. That just like the ketayres of the heichal, if you offered a kazayas outside the temple, you'd be chayiv. So to the ketayres of Yom Kippur, which is supposed to be inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, if you offer a kazayas outside, you're going to be chayiv. Okay, it's different. Oh, nice. Very nice.
When the shots paid.
Uh-huh.
And I did 2 months. And walk my dog.
And take the rest of the day off. Okay. In Little House on the Prairie. They said like at 10 o'clock they needed to have half the day's work done. Yeah. It gets hot afterwards. Okay, kulin shachasru. Anything that's missing part of the sacrifice that's offered outside, we said is going to be pater. The sacrifice needed to be intact, and then when you offered it outside, it'd be chayav. But if it's not intact, it's missing, part of the sacrifice is lost, it'd be pater. Where's the question? Ibaylu. Hisarim the chutz. If there's a carbon that went outside the azara, and you lost a piece of the carbon outside the azara, not that it got lost inside, it was lost outside. Shmei chisaron, is that considered that it's missing? There's something missing over here, and you're not going to be chayiv. Just like if a piece of the sacrifice got lost inside, you took it outside, you'd be pater. So too, if it's lost outside, maybe it's not considered lost. Why do we have this question? What's the difference? Mi amrinan, do we say kimin lenafa gifsalu? Shaspat is telling you that you're a page behind. It rings when you're it puts an alarm on. Mi amrin kimin lenafa gifsalu. Do we say that once it left Azara, we say that it becomes invalid? Mali chaser, mali yeser. What's the difference if once it's invalid? What's the difference if it's missing? It's already invalid. You're coming to tell me, you took it outside. That's pretty bad. It left the place. Now you're going to tell me that it has another problem, that it's missing. Or maybe we say that no, I know that it's yatsa. I know that it left the azara. But the fact is that it's whole. It's intact. And then you'll be chayav. Lasabene, loy. But if it's not intact, then we'll say that you're pater. So the question is, can you mess up something that's already messed up? That's the, right? The pig, check the lungs on the girl that, right? Remember that story? There was a girl that was sick, and the doctor said that she has to eat pig. So she said no, she's not. Then the rabbi came and said no. If the doctors say, then you have to. It's okay, but only if you shecht it. So they found the sheichet that was willing to use his knife on a pig. So they shechted it, and they said, okay, but you have to check the lungs to make sure that it's kosher. They checked the lungs; it wasn't valid. So they took it to the Rav. The Rav said, look, if it would be a cow, it would be treif. But if a pig, maybe this is acceptable. say kosher, maybe found a pig, maybe this is kosher. It was like a question. Can you say that the pig, it's going to be kosher? Like, what's the Reb supposed to say? That it's kosher? Okay, so anyway, why am I telling that to you? I'm not sure.
Must have been an episode on Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about if something that's messed up, that it's yaitse, if it can get any worse. Okay. Omar Abaya Tashima. Come and listen. Rabbi Lezer Paiter, Rabbi Lezer says that your pater, if someone offers a kazayas bachutz, achiyakar veskulan, until he offers everything, right? Rabbi Lezer said that you had to have everything. It needed to be shalim. It needed to be the whole thing. Okay. Rabbi Lezer says it needs to be whole, so that means if you're missing a piece outside, you're going to be exempt. Amalei Rabba Baruch Hanan la'abaya. Rabba Baruch Hanan says to buy midir Rabbi Lezer Pashat Mar. You're using Rabbi Lezer to answer our question. Rabbi Lezer is the strictest one, and we weren't even asking according to Rabbi Lezer. We were asking according to the Chacham. Rabbi Lezer says if you're missing a piece, then you're pater, even if you're not missing it, just because you didn't offer it up. Now we're talking about if you're missing it. It's no raya from Rabbi Lezer. Amalei. So Abaya says, "Beferish minei damar." I heard it from you. It says the Rav, but it's supposed to be Damar. He's telling Rabba Barav Chanan. I believe Rabba Barav Chanan is a son-in-law of Rav. If I remember correctly, I have to search that up. It's not going to be on the chart. But Rabba Barav Chanan. If you can't remember if it's Rav Chanan bar Rabba or Rabba Barav Chanan. One of them was the son-in-law of Rav. He says, I heard from you that Adkan Leipliga Rabban Alad Rabbi Lezer El Disabene. When did the Rabbanan say that Rabbi Lezer, when did the Rabbanan argue on Rabbi Lezer? And they say that it's acceptable even if you offer, not acceptable, it's liable. If you offer only part of the animal, that's only when the animal is intact. But if the animal is missing part of it, then the Chum would agree to Rabbi Lezer that you're not going to be chayav. Lav the chaser b'chutz. Are we not talking about that the Chum would agree even if what got missing happened outside? One says no, that's not necessarily so. That's just an assumption. Like the chaser b'fnim, the Chum would agree that if inside a piece of the animal went missing, and so then and it was taken outside, then we would say that he's going to be exempt. The Chacham would agree. Tashema on Kuf Yud, in the middle of the page.
In the middle of the page.
Kuf Yud Amar Aleph. Right, a few lines above the Mishnah. Tashema, the beginning of a line. Kol shechasr. Tashema, kol shechasr v'kim b'chutz pater, lav d'chasr b'chutz. We have a brisa that says anything that was missing and it was offered outside is going to be exempt. Obviously, it was when did it go missing outside? Gemara says no, that's not accurate. It says loy, the chasr b'fnim. We're talking about that it got lost inside. Okay. Next part of the same question the Gemara asked, the Gemara answered it the same way. Hamakriv kachim. If someone offers a sacrifice outside, it's kachim and a murim b'chutz is going to be chayiv. We said that if he offers the flesh plus the organ outside, he's going to be chayiv. We said, why is he chayiv? The flesh is not supposed to go on the altar. He said, well, the organ is. So you're chayiv because of the organ, the imurim. There's a chatzitza, but there's a chatzitza there's a separation between the organ that's supposed to go on the mizbeach and the mizbeach, because there's flesh over there that's in the middle. Shmuel says, talking about you turned it over in the way that the basar is on the top and the imurim are on the bottom. And so there's no chatzitza. It's exactly where it's supposed to be. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you don't have to turn it over where the basar is not going to be a chatzitza. Amani, Reb Shimoni. It's Reb Shimon. There is no such thing as a mizbeach b'chutz. You could even bring it on a rock. You could bring it on anything. This was like a whole problem that you're creating. They said you need to be on the mizbeach, and it's not on the mizbeach. It's according to Reb Shimon that says there's no mizbeach, even if it's on a rock or a stone. Rav Amar min b'minei nechitzitz. Rav says you don't have to worry about it anyway, because the limb and the flesh is all the same thing, and min b'minai, one thing with the same type is not interposed between the two. Okay, Mishnah says mincha shlei nikmitza v'kriva b'chutz pater. You with me?
Yeah, it's just a crazy question. I'm sorry. Crazier answers. I flipped the meat over this way, so I didn't see it. Therefore, it's okay. Since when is that an answer?
No, the opposite.
You got it wrong. That's why.
The opposite.
No, because I flipped over the meat, I don't see the chatzitza, so therefore it's okay.
No, the opposite.
There is no chatzitza.
What happens is,
But it's there.
No.
You're just not
Yeah,
looking at it.
let's do it like this. I have two parts to the animal. This part is supposed to be burnt on the altar, and this part is not supposed to be burnt on the altar.
It's not.
So I put it on the altar. They say outside the temple. They say, "Oh, you said Yechayev." So, but 1 second, but it's not really on the altar because this part is not problematic for it. It's this part was the problem on going on the altar. They said, "No, you turned it over." Other opinion says, "No, I know, but this is not a chatzitza."
So our Gemara is good after all.
I didn't understand.
There you go.
Crazy
Mincha,
student.
You're a good student.
Beethoven. Mincha shlei nikmitza v'kriva b'chutz pater. If the carbon mincha, well, you didn't do kmitza on it, which really, the kmitza of a mincha, the scoop of the carbon mincha is really like the sprinkling of the blood. That's the main thing that allows it to be now eaten or whatever. That's the main service. You didn't do the main service of the mincha, and you just took this flour and oil, and you just put it on a rock or on something outside the temple. You're going to be exempt because that was not eligible even to bring inside because you didn't do the kmitza, which was the main thing. Let's say you did kmitza, and the kmitza fell inside. It fell back in. So, and then you offered it outside, you're going to be chayav. Even though it's exactly the same like before. Before you also had the kmitza inside. You just didn't take it out first. Now you have the kmitza inside, but it was taken out first. You just put it back. So then you're going to be chayav if you offer it outside. And the explanation is because such a karban, if it was offered inside the temple, it would have actually satisfied the obligation to bring that mincha if you would have put it on the altar. Now that you're offering it outside, person's going to be chayiv. Gemara asks, why should it be chayiv if you offer it outside? What's the part that you chayiv for? The kaimetz, right? That's the part that's supposed to go on the altar. The rest of it doesn't go on the altar. But libatli shirayim lekaimetz. We should say that it becomes batal, and it's as if you didn't put the kaimetz on the altar outside the temple, as if there's no kaimetz. Gemara says, Amar Reb Zera says that we don't say that the kaimetz becomes batal in the remnant of the mincha, because nemra haktara bekaimetz, nemra haktara b'shirayim. It says that you have to offer the kaimetz. It also says the word haktara when it comes to the shirayim. Why does it say that? It says leisakrivu laHashem. It says that you can't make it out of chametz. The mincha can't be chametz. You don't bring leaven or honey, right? So, call ma haktaras kaimetz and kaimetz vatul chaverai. Just like when it comes to offering one kaimetz together with another kaimetz, we say that if you do them together, one doesn't nullify the other. So, haktar shirayim and shirayim vatul kaimetz. Also, when you're offering the shirayim, we say that it doesn't nullify the other. Now, what's the explanation for this? We say like v'lakach midam apar midam asar. It's a min b'minai. They're both the same type. Everyone agrees that if you have the two bloods, the blood of the goat and the blood of the bull, that they don't nullify one another, even though you mix the bloods together and you sprinkle them in the Beis Hamikdash, but one doesn't nullify the other. So we explained because first of all, they're the same blood, they're the same, they're both blood, so it's min b'minai. Also, the same quality they're both carbon, right? That was like the big deal, Reb Naftali, if you remember that Ran about the Rabbi Yehuda with Davar Shein L'Matirin and that whole thing. Davar Sheish L'Matirin. So over here also we're saying that the Shirayim is considered Kadshim and the Kaimetz is considered Kadshim. So we're going to say that they're both the flour and it has the quality and the type plus the quality. So we say it's not going to be batal. The Mishnah says, New Mishnah, yeah? Kaimetz, that's the scoop of the mincha, Valavaina, which is also a part of the mincha, the frankincense. Shehikriv es echad me'am bachutz is chayiv. One of them was offered outside, it's chayiv. Now you need both of them to be mater the mincha. Rabbi Lezer Paiter, Rabbi Lezer says, Yaakov es Hasheni. You're only going to be chayiv if you do both of them outside, not if you do half outside. Yeah.
You remind me what the Lavona.
Lavona is frankincense. Remember, we tried to burn that here once.
That was before my time.
Oh, really?
With Rabbi Smith. I mean, Rabbi with the Cohen.
Nothing. Out of nothing.
Yeah.
Out of nothing. Yeah.
It's still on the video if you go on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Rabbi Lezer Paiter Yaakov es Hasheni. Okay. Echad b'fnim, echad b'chutz, then it's going to be chayiv. If you did the first one inside, so the sacrifice is already halfway acceptable, and then instead of doing the second one inside, you take the second one outside, then that's going to be a problem, even according to Rabbi Lezer. Everyone would agree that you chayiv. Yeah, it's only if you did the wrong one outside first. That would be a problem. But if you did the wrong one inside, if you did not the wrong one inside, if you did the right one inside and then you did the wrong, and then you did one outside, so that would be liable, even according to Rabbi Lezer. Okay, there's another machlokes, shnei bezicha levayna. When it comes to the lechem apanim, which is the showbread, there were 2 spoonfuls of frankincense. One of them is offered outside the chayiv. That's the Tanakama's opinion. Rabbi Lezer Paiter Yaakov es Hasheni. Rabbi Lezer says that you exempt until you offer the second one. It seems to be the same machlokes. Echad b'fnim ve'echad b'chutz. Let's say you did the first one inside correctly and one outside, then you're going to be chayiv, like just like Rabbi Lezer said before, when you have the kaimetz and the levina, right? Whichever one you did first. So too, if this shnei bezicha levina, if the first one was done inside and then the second one outside, there'd be chayiv. Boy, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nafcha has a question. Kaimetz ma'u shi'ate kenegde b'shirayim. We need 2 things to satisfy the obligation by a mincha. You need to do the kmitza, and you also need to do the levina. Let's say you only did one of them. Do we say that you've just satisfied half of the mincha, and until the other one, or did you not even do half? Like which way? Like that's like the question, like partners. The partners own everything. The 2 of them own everything, or the partners own half of everything. You know, like what is it?
Partnership by entirety.
By entirety. Anyway, over here we're saying that you have 2 partners that allow the mincha. How does it work? Does each one matir? Is each one allowing half of it? So might connected b'shiraim. Do we say mishra shari that it permits half of the mincha? Oy kalishi miklash, or does it just weaken it? It doesn't permit half. It weakens the whole thing. It weakens it halfway. In other words, it's now you're halfway permitted to eat it. Right? Aliba the man. Who are we asking this according to? The Rabbi Yitzchak's question. It says Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. If we say we follow Rabbi Meir that says that if a person has the wrong thoughts by half of the mater, which means like just by the kaimetz but not by the levina, so Rabbi Meir holds that that's satisfactory to create the problem, right? That it's already considered pigel. Then Mishra Shari, obviously he holds that it's doing something. It must be permitting half of it. If it's according to the Rabbanan, that's Damri, Ein Mafalg Machatzi Matir, that having thoughts about half of having thoughts by half of the Matir doesn't do anything. It doesn't do, it doesn't even weaken it. You have to do the whole thing. Ella, I'll leave it to Rabbi Lezer. Rather, it's following the opinion of Rabbi Lezer of our Mishnah that says that you need to have both. Rabbi Lezer k'Rabbanan tzvirlei. The Gemara says Rabbi Lezer k'Rabbanan tzvirlei. Damrein mefalgim mechatzei mater. Obviously, the Rabbi Lezer holds like the Rabbanan. He says that doing half is nothing. The Gemara says Ella aliba the Rabbanan dahacha. Rather, we're following the opinion of the Rabbanan, not Rabbi Lezer. According to the Rabbanan, they say that if you offer half of it, bachutz, you're going to be chayev. So now we say, does it allow half of the carbon mincha? My Mishra Shari. Does it say half the mincha is now permissible to eat? I call it miklash, or it just weakens it. The teku. We don't know the answer. I guess you wouldn't be allowed to eat it anyway, because which half is it? Was it just matter? So I learned by the Rosh, the California. So one time the Rosh said, "You guys, you're coming to say there," and this. It was like yelling at us. Classic. You were there, right? You by the Rosh?
No. My son was there.
Oh, so it was, yeah. I said, "But what do you do for us? Like, what? So what do you mean?" I said, "Well, we want to become, Talmidei Chachamim, want to be, So they say, if you stay by me 4 years, you're going to be a gadol." So anyway, after I was there 3 years. I said, I don't feel like I'm
On the
3/4 of a gadol. He says, "Oh yeah, the first 3 years is bittul." Yeah. Okay. That's cute. Zayrek mixas dam b'chutz. If someone sprinkles a part of the blood outside the Beis Hamikdash, yeah. Now he didn't sprinkle all the blood; sprinkled only part of the blood. Now the rule is usually that one sprinkling is satisfactory unless it's the special karbanos that go inside the sanctuary. Those special karbanos. So he sprinkles mixas dam b'chutz. Chayev. Then we say chayev. Rabbi Lezer says, Afa menasech me'achag. Also, if someone pours the water of Sukkot b'chag, and it's on Sukkot, b'chutz, is going to be chayev. Rabbi Nechemya says, shiorei adam, the remnant of the blood after it's been sprinkled, which is supposed to be poured on the foundation of the altar, on the Yisayid HaMizbech. Shekriva b'chutz is chayev. If you pour it outside the temple, you also be chayev, even though usually that wasn't makiv. I must be talking about those special karbanos. Shirai Makvin. It must be according to the opinion that holds Shirai Makvin by those special karbanos, that the ones that the blood is inside, the pouring it on the foundation is ma'akiv. We had a machlekes about that. Okay, so we're saying that Reb Nechemya holds like that.
You mean not?
Yeah, that pouring it on the foundation is ma'akiv, is essential, and if you don't do it, it's going to be possible. It's going to be puzzle. Therefore, if you take it outside, that's going to be liable as well. Amar Rava, Ma'ida Rabbi Lezer says that usually you're not chayav outside if you only do chatzi amater. You needed to Rabbi Lezer, you needed everything. Is Ma'ida Rabbi Lezer b'damim, when it comes to the blood of the chatas pnimis, that you're going to be chayav if you do it outside. The Tanya was taught in a brisa, referring to the sor of Yom Kippur, parent son of Yom Kippur, that if the blood spills, what do you have to do? Rabbi Lezer, Reb Shimon Aimrim, imakim shapasik umaschal. You bring another animal, and you don't have to start over. You spilled, the blood got lost. You don't have to start over the sprinkling. You just have to continue from where you left off, which means that even part of the blood is going to be satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if it takes it pachotz, it's going to be chayiv as well. Rabbi Lezer is maida bedamim. That was an expression. We had that Gemara before as well.
There wasn't it where they scooped up the blood from the ground?
Yeah, by the Korban Pesach. Rabbi Lezer Aimer Afa Menasech Mechag Bechag Bachutz is going to be Chayiv. Am Rabbi Yechon Mishum Menachem Yudfa. Here we have a new name here. Rabbi Menachem Yudfa. What are you telling me? You're telling me about the name?
Yeah.
One second. This is another. Yeah, this is another thing. That's something else.
Yeah, Yotfa is one of those cities that was surrounded by walls. So now you're sure.
It's it's the name of a city. It's the name of
Yeah.
okay, it's the name of a city. There's a note here, but it's coming out. It's going on the next Gemara. It's not on this piece. Rabbi Yechon says the name of Rabbi Yochanan Yudfa that Menachem Yudfa that Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds that if you pour the water of Sukkot outside the temple, Shitas Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Yamra. Oh. This is not Rabbi Eliezer. This is Rabbi Elazar.
I had it wrong.
So 1 second. Where did we switch?
Here it says Rabbi.
Right. Yeah, in the Mishnah before it was Rabbi Eliezer. In this is the only in this Mishnah we switched to Rabbi Elazar. This is Rabbi Elazar. This is Rabbi Elazar, not Rabbi Eliezer. Before the Mishnah before was Rabbi Eliezer. This has to be Rabbi Elazar. Why? Because it's Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua, who's a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Yeah, he's saying in the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yamra. The Amar Nisach Hamayim Deraisa. Rabbi Akiva held that the pouring of the water on Sukkot is a deraisa. The Tanya was taught in Brayso. Rabbi Akiva says, "Buntzach b'shnei nisuchim hakasav adaber, b'shnei nisuchim hakasav medaber. Echad nischa mayim v'echad nischa yayin." And when it says when it talk about the sacrifices, on the different days we have the different words. So one of them is one of the different days of Sukkot. It says min chasam, min niskehem, min niska, right? So Rabbi Kiva says that when it says unsachah, which is I think it says it on the second day, so on the sixth day, I forget which one. So that's teaching me that there's a plural libations. There's two. One is the wine and one is the water. It's clear in the Torah that this is a biblical law to pour the water. Therefore, Rabbi Elazar would say that if you pour this outside the temple, then it's going to be chayav. Amalei Rish Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan, malalan. If it's going to be talking about the two nesachim, shleishus lugim. Oh, just like over there by the Karmel Tamid, it needs to be shleishus lugim. Afkan shleishus lugim. Rabbi Elazar meichad kamar. Rabbi Elazar didn't say that it needs to be the 3 lugim. He said it's just a small amount. Some hold that the water was only a lug. Rabbi Elazar meichad kamar. So it's not going to be the 3 lug that we were talking about before if it follows that opinion. The Gemara says this was a question of Rish Lakish. The Gemara says, "I malahalan b'shayu ma'asashana, afkan b'shayu ma'asashana." 1 second. Over there, you were talking about the shleishus lugim. That was talking about the whole year. You want to say also that pouring the water, it's going to be chayiv the whole year if you put anyone that pours water outside the temple. So it says, Rabbi Elazar b'chad kam. Rabbi says you only chayiv on sukkos. Marian says ishtamit say hadam Ravasi. That's the note that you were telling me. He escaped him. This is what you're telling me. Escaped him. This note. That which Ravasi says escaped him. They're really coming to discuss who it was that overlooked Ravasi's statement, as well as how to explain the significance. Rashi says that it was Menachem Yudfa who missed Ravasi's statement. Yeah. Okay. So Shtamitzi Adam Ravasi. The Amar Ravasi, Amar Rabbi Yechon, Mishum Rabbi Nechuni, Yesh Bikas Beis Charsan, Esen Etias Rav V'Nisach Hamayim Malach L'Mesh Misinai. So, which means that everyone really holds that Nisach Hamayim is a daraisa, because we said that there's a halacha of Esen Etias. The halacha of Esen Etias is that if someone has 10 saplings in a certain area, normally you have to stop working the field before Shemitah. We have a halacha that it has to be before Shemitah. However, that we drop that rule if there's 10 saplings that need extra work, that you're allowed to water the whole field up until the Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah. Another thing is the arava that we use on Hoshana Rabbah. That's a halach l'Moshe Sinai, and also nisach hamayim, the pouring of the water, is also halach l'Moshe Sinai. So if that's the case, then it doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be specifically Rabbi Akiva. There's a everyone holds that it's a derais. Everyone holds, and there's a special halach of how much it's supposed to be. So the question that you had, but it needs to be shleish lugim. No, it's halach l'Moshe Sinai that this is just one lug. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Menasach shleish lugim b'mayim b'chag b'chutz is chayev. Rabbi Lezer bar Shimon Omer. Oh, this is a different Rabbi Lezer. It's probably we take out for Rabbi Shimon. It's supposed to be Rabbi Lezer. Who is it? It's probably Ben Shemua. Anyway, they take it out. Rabbi Lezer Omer. Imilan l'shem chag, then he's chayiv. If the water was filled up in the bucket for the sake of sukkahs, and then he pours it outside, then yes, he's going to be chayiv. Might be now. What's the difference between Rabbi Lezer and the Tanakama? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Yitzchak says, "B'yesh shir b'mayim k'miflagi." Machlekes is if he filled up more than 3 lug. Tanakama holds that it's going to be chayiv for neschamayim because the holy vessel sanctifies it. The Chum say that. Sorry? Yeah, but here we're saying that even if you have more than what's necessary, that all of that extra is also considered part of the water. And Rabbi Lezer says that no, you have to have 3 lugim and no more. And therefore, if you filled it up more, then the vessel doesn't consecrate it. Yeah, the vessel only consecrates what's eligible. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says that the machlekes here is that everyone agrees that there's a shear for the nisach hamayim. And everyone also agrees that the vessel doesn't consecrate more than that's necessary. Bekarvu nesachim b'midbar pligi. Machlekes is, did they offer nesachim in the desert? Now, when they the pasuk after the meraglim, the psukim after the meraglim, after it says you're going to be in the desert for 40 years, then the Torah comes to teach me about the nesachim. So usually it's learned that that's only after they're going to come into the land of Israel, and that was an appeasement to them, telling them that I'm teaching you halachas now, even though you're going to be here for a long time, but you should know you're going to make it in, and here's the halachas. However, the Tanakama holds that really in the desert they also, if they brought a sacrifice, they had to bring the nesachim. It says bias aretz. That's coming to tell them that when they get to the Eretz Yisrael, before they build the Mishkan, and they're going to be offering on private altars, they're going to also bring nesachim. Before they build the proper altar, and they have private altars, that they're going to have nesachim. Which means that the nesachim don't need to be put into a holy vessel. Rabbi Lezer holds that they're only chayev in nesachim once they come into Eretz Yisrael. And when it says over there, bias aretz, it says when you come into the land, you have to bring, that means that only when you come in. But however, it's only when they set up the Mishkan where you're going to have holy vessels, and those vessels are going to consecrate it. So in other words, this the karvu nesachim and midvar pligi is really discussing another point: is do the nesachim need a holy vessel when they're being offered? And that would be the machlekes between Rabbi Elazar and the Tanakama regarding shleishus lugim mayim b'chutz. Okay, Ravina Amar, where's the end? Oh, okay. Ravina Amar.
He's a contemporary of
Yeah.
Rebbe. Exactly.
Ravina Amar, Ravina says, "B'lamedim nisach hamayim and nisach hayayim pligi." That the machlekes between Tanakama and Rabbi Lezer is, do we learn nisach hamayim from nisach hayayim? The water libation from the wine libation. The Tanakama holds that when the Torah says that you pour wine, it doesn't need to go into a holy vessel, so therefore the water also doesn't need to go into a holy vessel. And therefore, if someone brings it outside, even if it was not in a holy vessel, it's going to be chayiv. Rabbi Lazar holds that we don't learn one from the other. Nischa yayin, you're right, doesn't need to have a holy vessel. However, Nischa mayim, which was which was meant for the base of Mikdash, that doesn't need a holy vessel. And therefore, if someone brings water that wasn't put into a vessel, it's going to be exempt. It needs to be in a holy vessel. Okay, let's leave it at Tanar Rabbanan. We're holding on Kuf Yud Aleph.
Shlomo Korbach,
Holy vessel. Holy brother. Okay, have a good week, everyone.